Dakota's computer. All right, so that's going live on the book. Okay, this is what I have in front of me tonight. Not saying I'm going to smoke every single one,
Right.
but it's what I grabbed to choose from. This is number 8, Spare Notes. It's number 8, Spare Notes number 8. Go to your page, smoking tobacco. And boom, here we go.
Right. I get that.
Got it.
You got a big lineup tonight. Oh, you got some good stuff in here.
I haven't smoked all weekend yet, so I was like, oh, I gotta get some stuff going. Yeah, hold on. Bear with me, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, no problem.
Let's share this out. Spare notes. Few more minutes and then we'll be good. Trying to scale back some of my pre-show stuff. So just bear with me.
No problem. How about those Yankees, huh? Yeah, you guys are like a roller coaster. Like one day, we're great, and then we suck, and we're great.
We got shut out game 1 of the ALDS. Game 2, would we go 14-5, 14-6?
Yeah, I mean it's 5-game series. Anything can happen.
Yeah, and you get 2 games back at Fenway. That's you never know what you're gonna get there.
Yep.
It's a wild house.
Yeah, Braves won today, so it's tie that series.
All righty. All righty. All right, Coop, you ready to do this?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
I'm ready to do this.
I got Ash is still on. Ash is bad on the last show.
Damn it, Coop. All right.
Yeah, the black just shows it.
Well, we're going to start the show.
Yep.
So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Spare Notes series. My name is Matt Tobacco from SpokenTobacco.com, and I am joined once again by my very good friend, Mr. William Cooper of CigarCoop.com. And once again, it's a meeting of the minds. We have as usual, we have a laundry list of things that we want to get to tonight. So
Yep.
I think we're going to get to that.
Absolutely.
I haven't started my cigar yet. So I'm going to start that cutting light, as they say on the Cigar Authority. Let's light them up, light them up, light them up. I have a whole selection of options here, and I think I know which one I'm going to start with because it's the only one that I haven't had yet from this line. Actually, there's 2, but it's one that I have more interest in. I have the Short Dream from the Diamond series from El Septimo, the
Right.
new Liga Privada Pancetta, the Tatuaje T110 Broadleaf, the Arturo Fuente Don Carlos Personal Reserve, the man's Personal Reserve, as well as the Undercrown Maduro Robusto. So I think I'm going to go with the pancetta because I've been eagerly awaiting this. I haven't had a pancetta yet. I just got a box. This is the first one from the box, so I'm gonna start with that one. All short smokes tonight. I have to say, I went with which is not my style. Anybody who knows me knows
Right.
I'm not a short smoke guy, but I grabbed all short smokes tonight. So here we go. Let's cut them
I'm
up.
curious what your thoughts are about the Liga. That's the 2021 edition.
Yeah.
You were smoking? Yeah, I just got my 2021 editions, but I've smoked the previous editions of it as well.
Historically, what has been your feeling on it?
Not the best Liga Privada Unico, but it's a good cigar. I think the size is too small with
Really?
it. Yeah. But like I said, it's a cigar. I mean, I'd recommend buying it. I wouldn't say don't buy this cigar. Would I go for a box of it? Probably not. But it's a solid. It's just for again for or actually it's a 2-store exclusive here. It's a very good cigar for a 2-store exclusive is what I'll say on that. I'm looking to see what I scored this as. I think I scored it an 89. Yes, I scored it an 89, which is a very good score on Coop. So, but I've had, it's funny. I had Year the Rat scored an 89 for me, and a lot of people really liked Year the Rat. I was a little down on this Year of the Rat, but like I said, I want to give the 2021 a chance because things change sometimes. You just you don't get the same cigar sometimes. So
Yeah, I mean, it's all, they're all handmade cigars. It's just like wine. It's a crop product. Some years are, every year's different.
Exactly. So you want to be, yeah, but I think they did well for it. Like I said, 89 is nothing to sneeze about. But I've had some ligas score 92, 93 in the past.
So far, so good. A lot of not really peppery, but spice up front. Like
Yep.
It's like a dry spice. Like a dry, powdery spice. A little bit of kick on the back of the throat, but not up front. It's on the back. I would go with like a little bit of cayenne pepper on the finish on the back, but up front it's like a dry cinnamon spice, full of flavor, dry, but full of flavor. This is definitely not a one-dimensional cigar, but we'll see where the rest of it takes us. I'm very excited to see this.
Yep.
And what are you smoking over there?
I'm about to light up the 724 Hustler 5 and dime.
Oh, so good.
Is
that your show sample?
This is a show sample, so I have a slight little nick in the up by the cap, and that's probably just because it is a show sample. But I have smoked this before, so I did like it. So it's very good.
You know what I said to Kurt Kendall? Have you ever had the European biscuits with the chocolate on them?
Mm-hmm.
That.
Yeah, I could see it.
So
this is
good.
a dark barber pole too. It's a little hard to see, but it is a dark barber pole of San Andreas and Brazilian Habano. It's out of the Jesus Fuego factory, which Kurt is now working with.
Right.
And this was a PCA exclusive. I don't think it's shipped yet. I think maybe Kurt had some at the store, but
yeah, it was a PCA exclusive. I can tell you because I lived in the Twins neighborhood.
Yep.
And I was with Kurt recently, and I don't think that there's any left right now from that original batch. I believe those are all gone, but I think there's more coming. So
it was definitely exclusive worthy, is what I'll say. This was one of the more intriguing releases, and I think we beat how I was disappointed with the PCA series as a whole. But this was one of the more intriguing ones, and I think it lived up to what I was expecting.
That's definitely one that when more arrive, I want a box.
Yeah.
Sure.
But I am trying to just whittle down some of my show samples right now to make room for production stuff. So I figured this would be a perfect one. New England theme tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, you're definitely New England here. You're on my team tonight. This is great.
Yep.
You know,
Well, New England.
what else is interesting is this. This could potentially be our last show separated for a month because in 2 weeks I'll be down in the Carolinas.
Yes, I know you will. Yep. Yeah, we got to talk about that. Yep.
So we still got to plan that, but I know we're trying to do a show together in person. So this will be awesome.
Yep. Well, if that works out, that'll be great. I'll take the equipment down there and we'll be able to do it. So.
Sorry, I'm just really getting into the cigar right now. Now that the lighting is done, and it's kind of dropped into its where it's gonna burn. That spice is gone. And it dropped like right into this like dark. Well, yeah, a little bit of dark chocolate. But you ever bake a cake at home?
I've had a home baked cake. I can't say I've tried to bake a cake now, but yeah.
But you ever like take like the crispy part of the cake?
Yeah.
And just break it off. Not the fluff part, just like the crispy part that was on the pan.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit more.
Yeah. You strip that stuff off. Yeah.
That.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of like a semi-sweet chocolate.
Yep. Oh yeah. This is big smoke production out of this thing right out of the gate.
This is real good. I wish it was bigger. I think I anticipated it being a little bit bigger.
But with the Unico series, they do really try to match a blend to a size. So, maybe that was the best combination for that size.
True. Very true. And that's the thing. When it comes to cigar blending, we've talked about this time and time again. When you get into blending, cigars a lot of times are blended to a certain size, and then other sizes are added so that there's a variety.
Yep.
But there's always one size where that is the size that when the blend came and they said, this is what we want, that's the blend that, that's the size that, initially was the blend part. And then, they add the other sizes and, of course, there's always the talk about Lanceros, which I told you before the show. I think I want to try to get into a little bit tonight because we've been bringing it up every week, and I'm like, on the next show we're gonna get into Lanceros. No more waiting. Tonight we're gonna talk about Lanceros, so we will get into it. So Facebook does this interesting thing. What's up, Orlando? We're like, I have the live feed open so I can read the comments. So people ask questions or whatever, I can get to them. But it's been doing this thing where like it hides the comments and you like tap it to open.
Oh, it's terrible. It's terrible.
So annoying.
I've had this problem more than other people have lately because I've had it for about 2 months.
Well, Kenneth Christensen says, agree, Ligas are good. Larger diameter is better. Yeah, I agree. I'm a big
what's in it? The 9 is really good though in the short Corona.
It is. I primarily smoke it in the Bellicoso or the Toro, but the smaller ones are pretty good.
Yep.
I like the Corona Doble size in all the Ligas.
It's better for the 52. I like, yeah.
It's better in the 52, and my only issue with it is that sometimes it's a little inconsistent, but when it's good, it's good. Orlando, good to see you too, buddy. Thanks for watching.
Absolutely.
I feel like I haven't seen you in the comments in a little while, so it's great to have you on board tonight with us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Lanceros. I love them. Coop has a reputation of being known as a Lancero hater, which I know is not the case. That's not exactly the correct verbiage.
No.
And Coop is more than welcome and free, as he knows, to stand his ground on that.
Right.
And it's not so much that he's a Lancero hater, but there are things about Lanceros that he does not like, which I know he'll get into. But essentially, the deal with Lanceros is they make up a very small percentage of the total cigar sale market. Now, the reason for that is because, well, they just don't sell. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, why don't they sell when I feel like a lot of people always want Lanceros? Well, the reality is we all like Lanceros. The problem is, I mean, I buy boxes of Lanceros when they're available. Like I have boxes of, like the, why is it slipping? The J London Lanceros I love. The Atabey Spiritus Lancero I have boxes of. And I smoke them and I love them. I'm a Lancero box buyer. The problem with Lanceros is that while there's a lot of people who enjoy them, they don't buy them by the box. And they go into a cigar shop and they ask for them. Hey, do you have the Lancero? Oh, Lancero. And you get that box of Lanceros and you put it on the shelf. That guy comes in, he buys one, smokes it, and then he moves on to something else because he's like, oh, this was good, but he won't buy the box because then that's often what happens.
Yep.
There's not enough high volume buying of Lanceros. People like them here and there, but there's not as many consistent Lancero smokers. And so manufacturers obviously are like, well, I'm not going to make a lot of them. And for a big Lancero fan like myself, it kind of sucks. And I have to constantly ask people, hey, you got it in a Lancero? Can you get it for me in a Lancero? And I have relationships with all the retailers that I shop with and that I know. And I know them all personally and I support them and I go to them and say, hey, I'm looking for this in a Lancero. Can you get it for me? I know they make it. Can you get it for me? They'll order it because they know I'm going to pay for whatever, but it's not something that they're going to order on their own to keep in the humidor. Because there's not many people like me coming in looking for boxes of Lanceros. So that's the biggest issue. The other part of it too, why people might not like a Lancero, and this is where Coop can start to chime in, is that there's a little bit of an argument that Lanceros can be a little bit impractical because of the really small ring gauge on it. It's really hard to envelop all of the flavors and get a good use of all the tobaccos within that cigar. Once you go to the binder, the wrapper, binder, fillers, the wrapper is one leaf, the binder is made up of a few leaves, but the fillers, where the bulk of the leaves in the tobacco are, by the time you get down there, there's only so much you have with that thin ring gauge. And then, that blend of whatever it is, oftentimes, it kind of misses the mark because it doesn't skip to the Robustos and the Toros that have the much bigger ring gauges and they have a lot more meat to them. You get down to the thin Lancero, which is great. It's a fun cigar. It's not going to really taste exactly identical because you're missing a lot more components to it because it's so small. And Coop, I'll let you kind of get into your situation with Lanceros.
Yeah. First, I want to just thank Dave Garofalo because he's taken the heat off me over the last few weeks. I guess he's been getting some grief about Lanceros too. So I want to thank Dave because that has taken the heat off me, which I've had for a while on with this. So look, here's the deal. I don't hate Lanceros. In 2016, my number 1 and number 2 cigar of the year were Lanceros. Right? If I hated them, I wouldn't have done that, right?
Right.
But there's a few things I want to just kind of mention. First of all, I think a Lancero works best when it's blended to be a Lancero. Not when you take another cigar and try to make it into a Lancero. That's where I think the problem has happened in a lot of cases. So my number 1 cigar year in 2016 was the Crux du Connoisseur number 2.
Mm-hmm.
That is a line of Panatella and Lancero cigars. That's what these were designed to do with that. But more so is I see people when they try to take a blend they have, and then they say, well, I'm going to make a Lancero out of it. All right. So what happens when that happens is the first thing is you want to get it to a 7x38, right?
Right.
Ultimately, you were just talking about this. You have to change the blend. The ratio is going to change. All right. And usually in the case of that, filler leaves come out. A good example was Fratello when they did their Lancero for Stogies of Houston. They pulled out the Peruvian tobacco. So ultimately, you're getting a different cigar. And a lot of times, I don't see how that's an improvement over a bigger ring gauge. I don't see if you're taking tobacco out. I can't see that automatically making this better. And I don't buy this. Second notion is the wrapper to overall tobacco ratio. I think it's a bit of a misnomer because ultimately you need good filler tobaccos to have a good cigar blend.
Right.
So I think people overstate the purpose of the wrapper in that case. Now, it doesn't mean you could maybe pull something out sometimes and it's pretty good, right? So I'm not saying that that's not the case, but usually, like a great example of this was I love the Guillermo Leon Reserve Blend by La Aurora, and I've smoked that for a long time. And what did they do is they made a Lancero for Drapers in Washington of that blend, and it was terrible. It was like this blend suddenly became terrible, and I don't know what they did, but they had to do something to change that blend, and it just wasn't good. So I don't see this automatic thing that it's going to be better. Now, then what happens is sometimes what they do is you see people go to 7x40s, 7x42, and call it a Lancero. And at that point, you're starting to get away from what a Lancero is. So, like, because what a lot of people do is they'll make it 7x40 so they can try to get some of those other tobaccos in there, and it clearly it doesn't work, right?
Right.
It doesn't work at all, and I think it falls flat in a lot of those cases. And then when you get up to 7x42, you're not really dealing with a Lancero anymore. Your four ring gauge is higher, right? I've had a problem with cigar media, just like being fanboys with the Lancero. It's not so much that I have a problem with them liking Lanceros. It's that they get like giddy, like cigar media gets giddy about this. Like, oh, Lancero, I can't wait. I just don't get it. Why aren't you getting excited about a Corona Gorda the same way or something? You got to tell me that you're just that much of a Lancero fanboy, and that's okay if someone individually is. But I think as a media person, you need to be objective and look at every Vitola fairly. Why? Because you don't want to be the guy. I don't want to be, and I have this problem right now by saying this, right? By saying I don't prefer Lanceros. What happens when I give a Lancero a bad review? I've screwed myself, right? So because now people think I'm biased. So I'm in a very tough position, and it was a big mistake I made with that. So I think the best I could do is just try to be fair about it, and then just remind people, well, I have given some very high Lancero scores, and that 2016 list, which had number 1 and number 2, had 5 Lanceros on. So that was a big year for Lanceros. So I have something to fall back on, but I got to be careful, and I think cigar media needs to be careful about that. Um, I I have my theories why companies make Lanceros. Which is I believe they want to keep the factory people kind of what's the word? Busy, not busy, but kind of skill sharpen them a bit, because Lancero is a tougher blend to do. So why not have them do a small batch of Lanceros and improve their skills to do it? I think it makes some sense to do that. And there's always going to be someone who's going to be able, a company to say, yeah, I'll take 100 bundles of those, and they'll find a few retailers who will take those bundles or bundle of boxes or whatever,
Right.
and do it. And that's my theory why the factories do it, because they know they can't sustain a big production. But you know what? If you have your team rolling Lanceros, it's got to improve their skills, because it's not an easy cigar to roll.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the other thing too, with a Lancero, which it's not as long as an A. It's more close to the length of like a Churchill. But when you get into those longer cigars, it's even harder to roll, and it's even harder to get. As you go longer, you need a longer leaf, and you need a good leaf that's long, and that's why the A size, which is roughly anywhere from like around 9 inches on average, I would say, for a traditional A, which is probably about yay. And I know people have seen them, and they're out there. I like those as well. I have a small collection of different ones, but they're harder to make because you need a good long leaf.
You need a lot, yeah. That's a limit. Yes,
it's harder to come by than a shorter leaf.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I mean, there's multiple layers as to what makes Lanceros just a little bit more out of reach than most other sizes. You see Toros and Robustos like this all day long. Everyone's making Toros and Robustos, and then they get something that's close. I feel like Bellicosos are getting a little bit more popular lately. I've been seeing more people do Bellicosos. And
good to see that. Yeah, I've been noticing that too.
And I love Bellicoso. I do. I really, it's got to be one of my favorite sizes, or shapes rather. I mean, Bellicos come in different sizes, but for the most part, I love the shape on them. I love the Bellicoso head. But yeah, I mean, you're seeing more of that stuff. And then the longer cigars, there are less common, and they make less of them because they are just harder to make, for all these reasons. And then you got Lanceros, you got petite Lanceros. I love. I mean, then you got I don't know if you'd call it. I don't know what you'd call it, but like Drew Estate's Undercrown line is an event-only cigar known as the Manifesto, which is 11 and a half inches long.
Yeah.
I think I have one, and it's about the same ring. I'd say it's about the same ring gauge. It's almost like a double Lancero, if you will. That's
I
gonna
don't
be a
remember.
hard cigar to make.
I don't remember what the ring is on that. Yeah, but that's an event cigar, so I get that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a little different. The thing I go back is look at like I'll say I'll name three companies that are big companies: Altadis, Davidoff, and Drew Estate. You can probably count the amount of Lanceros on one hand combined that those three companies make. They
Well,
don't
let's
make.
see. You start with Drew Estate, right?
Yeah,
You got the Liga Privada, the L40,
limited, very limited production.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would
You got
would
the
you
Herrera Esteliz. You got the two Herrera
the
Esteliz.
Herrera Esteliz? Yep,
Yep.
those are both in theirs too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, would you put the Undercrown one in there? I mean, it's not really a Lancero. It's bigger than a Lancero, but
I wouldn't
it's
put that one in there. It's an event cigar.
event
And
cigar. So we'll leave
yeah,
an event cigars out.
yeah,
Okay, and then Davidoff,
not a lot.
not much.
Not
I mean,
much.
you look at the biggest companies.
Yeah.
There's not
If
much there.
they may have had I think a White Label has had one. We want to give them one on that. Maybe there's a couple that are floating around, but I'd say they're limited production. They don't make a lot of them.
Nope.
Nope.
Perdomo doesn't make any.
But yep, Altadis doesn't really make. General does make some. I'll put General a little different. They've done a little more of those, I would say. Fuente's done a few, but again, not a lot.
More limited. It's more in the Opus
They're
line.
pretty limited again. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll see more of it in the Opus line. I think there
Yep.
is a Hemingway version. There's a Casa Fuente version.
Yep.
There's Opus ones. There's
I mean, I
20.
love those. I love those 888s, but they're not really Lanceros. They're a little bigger.
Right. The
Yeah.
8, and that's an interesting point. The 888 or the Purple Rain, from the Opus Forbidden collection. It is an interesting size. It's a little bit bigger than a Lancero. It's got that nipple head to it. Yeah, I don't know if I'd put that in that category. It's close. I wouldn't put it in the Lancero category though. But it is a great size. It's a phenomenal size.
Yeah. When I see a company say they're going to be the one to convince everyone to buy Lanceros, it is usually not ended well for that company. Great example of that, and I love this company's cigars, was 262 Cigars. They were a brand about 5 years ago, more based in the Mid-Atlantic. They seemed like they were heading, but the owner, great guy, Clint Aaron, was pushing Lanceros. And I'm like, that's not the answer. And the company, he ended up selling the company, and it's still around, but it doesn't have the same impact anymore. So, I look at Robert Holt has done it. I don't think Robert Holt's done some good Lanceros. I'm going to say that about Robert Holt.
Right.
I think there was only one Lancero of his I didn't like was the Cedrus, but other than he's done a very good job of doing Lanceros. But I think he's tried to move away from that recently. He's not really.
It's interesting. Our friend Jay Davis is with us again tonight. Pepin consistently makes solid Lanceros.
Not a lot, but he doesn't do a lot of. Yeah, there's a few out there. He's got a few in there, but not a lot.
I actually had one. The ribbon is still on the floor here. Actually, it's not even a Lancero. It's a little bit bigger than a Lancero. Yeah. I had one the other day, and it was good. Obviously, you want to talk same factory, Tatuaje.
How successful has his Lanceros been?
See,
maybe the original El Triunfador is the only one I would say that really had some sustainability.
Yes, and that's a great cigar.
That's a great cigar, but when he did the second version of the El Triunfador, it wasn't the same as that broadleaf one was incredible.
The Skinny Monsters he's got, which are not really.
He's got Petite, he's got Lancero, and he's got Cazadores in them.
Yeah.
I mean, of all the monsters, those are probably the least least sought after.
Right.
If you think about it. He even put some of those into ongoing production now, where he boxes them up. But I think it's a pretty limited production. I think he controls the amount he has. But again, I mean, if I put all those SKUs of monsters on a table, those Lanceros are the ones I'm least likely reaching for. Or the
The
Patina.
the blue label Lancero sells well for us consistently.
But
The core,
yeah, it's a
the
good point.
the core My Father Lancero and La Promesa all do well.
So here's a good point. Okay.
Okay.
So Jay, I consider Jay one of the top tobacconists in the country. This guy's really good, right? And I'm not just saying because I'm a friend. He is very good. When you have a tobacconist and like Jorge out of Houston, my old friend Mark Feely out of Mr. J's in Rhode Island. If you have a guy who's a tobacconist that can hand sell those things, I think that helps a lot. I think, but a lot of retailers won't hand sell it.
No, we have a retailer right in Watertown, Cigar and Lounge.
Yeah.
And they are a big Lancero shop. You walk into their humidor, it's half it's Lanceros.
But I think there's a crowd for it. And I think they play off. I'm assuming the owner likes Lanceros. I think that reflects on sales. If the owner doesn't like Lanceros, they aren't going to move. I mean, in general, if the owner doesn't like a cigar, it doesn't move as well, is what I find.
Here's another very good point I want to bring up about Lanceros. So Tyler Jeffrey is with us. I smoked too fast for Lanceros, which is at one point. He also throws out the Oliva Serie V Lancero, which I know is.
Well, let me tell you, that's a good Lancero, and it's one of the best Calabres ever made.
Yes.
Which is so I consider that offshoot. That is a tremendous Lancero. I agree with him on that.
But he does make a good point about smoking too fast. Sorry, there's like something in my eye, and it has just got my attention right now. And I'm just trying to get it to go away. He brings up a good point, though. You know, there are slow smokers out there.
Yep.
And there's power smokers out there. Now, when I first started, I mean, I still kind of am, but when I first started getting into cigars, I remember them telling me, my beginning days at Two Guys Smoke Shop, Salem, New Hampshire, they would say, you're a power smoker. You smoke them fast.
Yep.
You make a lot of smoke. And I've learned to, obviously that was many years ago. I've grown into a different, place, but I was still a little bit of a power smoker. You're a power smoker and you smoke Lanceros, it's going to dramatically change your experience, because Lanceros also, the other part of Lanceros is they do have to be smoked a little bit slower than a regular cigar because it's so much thinner. You get them too hot, you can overheat them too quick and burn the tobacco, and it just changes the whole flavor all the way through. That's a very big component, I would say, to Lanceros as well, is knowing to smoke them a little bit slower, let them burn. Don't get them too hot, which I think you would agree with as well.
Yeah, I agree.
There's people who I grab a Lancero and they try to rip it down like they're smoking a 60, and they burn the shit out of it and it gets real hot, and then they're like, it's so bitter, and well, you got to smoke it slower. And I think when I love Lanceros and I know how to smoke them, so I when I smoke a Lancero, I smoke it obviously different than I would any other cigar, and I think that's kind of what got me to calm down all of my smoking habit, like my power smoking habit, by learning how to smoke Lanceros and just kind of slowing myself down a little bit, which has done wonders for other cigars. But that Lancero is definitely something you smoke differently.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I mean, I'd apply that rule to any cigar. If you really want to enjoy it, don't inhale it like quick. But yeah, with a Lancero, I would agree with that. It's definitely also one, I just say, you're by yourself, you're gonna get a lot more out of it. Because your sensors are gonna be much more focused on that cigar.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I would say, and Coop's defense, that's his beef, if you want to call it.
It's not a beef. Yeah, it's not a
but
beef.
It's not even a beef. Yeah,
it's if people didn't just like full gaga over them, I think I'd be fine. It's just gaga, like oh, a Lancero, I can't wait. I'm like, you haven't even.
It's not that you hate Lanceros. You just think they get more praise than they deserve.
They get more praise than they deserve, right? I just think, if someone why don't people get excited? I get excited when there's a Corona Gorda. I just try to control it, right?
Right.
But and Ben and I were talking about like Corona Gordas, and we just think that there's been a lot of good Corona Gordas released in the last year that we think it's been a really good size. It's not getting any play this year about the Corona Gordas that have been released.
It's been an interesting year.
Yeah.
For releases.
It has.
Sorry, I'm checking the comments here. Everyone loves them until they see the price. That's another
Yeah,
thing too.
yeah. Wait. I do think Gordos are better than Lanceros, but again, I'm gonna say the same rule. There are terrible Gordos out there.
Oh yeah.
There are terrible Gordos. So I'll give you a really good example. 2011.
Hold on, mind you, sorry. Every there's terrible versions of every kind of size out there. I
Yeah,
mean, there's terrible
yeah,
Toros, there's
yeah,
terrible Robustos.
yeah.
But anyway, go ahead.
So 2011, I had a cigar from La Polina, my cigar of the year, the El Diario. It's recently just been discontinued, and it was that Robusto size that won it. They made a Gordo of that cigar. It's nowhere near a cigar of the year candidate. It's not even 90 point quality. So
Right.
this is something that was a cigar of the year that they tried to make into a Gordo and it didn't work. So it goes both ways, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean it's Gordos get heat. I mean, they all get heat though, and that's what's interesting about it. You know, everyone gets heat.
Right.
It just depends on who you are. I
Right.
guess.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like I said, that's why I just try to be kind of switch. I've tried to be. Years ago, I made a stupid comment about I don't like San Andreas, and that was a really stupid comment, right? Because I learned the blends that you can get San Andreas to be great. So I've tried to kind of neutralize that and just kind of say, all right, clean slate, whatever Vitola, let me see what happens. And that's kind of been my approach, and I've actually got more enjoyment, I think, out of that too.
Yeah. I was looking at our notes list here. We wanted to get into Lanceros. One of the other interesting things I had on here, there's one big ticket item that I know you want to get into, and I think I'm going to save that for the end part. I wanted to kind of maybe bang on all the other ones first.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. It might be the most controversial. It won't be that bad. It won't be that bad. If Jay's on, he may get mad at me though. So,
Jay, you got make sure you stay with us. Okay.
Yeah, you can always catch the replay after.
I'm gonna tease it now. All right, Coop's gonna get into the PCA Summit. All right, that's what he wants to talk about, but we're gonna save that for after all the other stuff.
I promise it's not gonna be a bashing. So I promise that. yeah. But I did some comments I do want to make on it. Yeah.
You know, I had one in here. You know, it was funny. We've talked a little bit about this here and there. I'm gonna throw it out there, and I'll let you run with it, and then we'll kind of get into it.
Mm-hmm.
Where do we draw the line with cigar packaging? At what point does it become too over the top? Now, this is something that you've brought up to me before.
Yeah.
About just stuff being just too much. In 2021, you know, we're seeing elaborate packaging. Just I'll let you run with that.
Yeah, Aaron and I actually talked about this on Thursday night, so it's appropriate to talk about it here too. So we talked about like what we call some of the gimmicky packaging, right?
Right.
And whether it was good or bad for the industry. And kind of what set the table is in like a couple weeks span, I was writing stories about cigars packaged as chocolate bars, cigars packaged in Japanese bento boxes, and cigars packaged in oil cans. Right, with the CAO, the punch was the bento box, and the Aladino for United was the chocolate bar thing, right?
Right.
And I was kind of like, man, what's happening? Like, you know, I'm really, this is stuff I really want to write about, right? Because I like writing about more hard hitting industry stuff. But you know, let me tell you something. When you write articles and you put press releases out on packaging like this, you get hits. I'm not gonna lie to you, right?
Oh yeah.
But the question is, is the juice worth the squeeze with a lot of this stuff? And there is some really cool packaging that's coming. Look, those three examples are great packaging examples, right? But are the cigars going to live up to it, right? And the question I have is, you know, where do you draw the line? Back in 2015, there's a company, they're still around, they're called Moya Ruiz. Have you heard of these guys?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Great guys. They make great cigars. They were working on Espinosa. They're still in business. They came out with a release called the Chinese Finger Trap. All right. And it's a hell of a cigar. All right. And the cigars were packaged in a game box that looked like a Milton Bradley game box. The press release came out with that, right? I actually had the exclusive on it, right? It's a small story. I didn't think any big deal, you know, but I'm going to print it, right? Man, I got destroyed, right? Because like, well, this is promoting kids. Because on the box, instead of the MB logo, they had an MR logo that looked like Milton Bradley. Saka came on Stogie Geeks when I was hosting the show and ripped me a new one. Okay. And I'm like, he's
Oh
like, well,
boy,
you should.
talk about waking the sleeping
Right,
giant.
right, right. So he thinks that I shouldn't have published that, right? That's a whole other debate, right? But I think to be fair with Saka here, his point wasn't wrong. Like, you're doing a game box, but now you're making it look like a kid's game box, right? What's the now you're starting to cross a line that I think is sensitive, right? And I'll give Moya Ruiz credit. They pulled the Milton Bradley thing off when they released it. Okay, so they did. I think they did the right thing. But then again, I look at this and I'm like, there is a line you're starting to cross there with the packaging. And I think you got to be real sensitive on that, right? But if packaging is going to help promote a cigar, like if someone wants to go get an oil can of CAO cigars, right? Or do you remember Nestor Miranda had the 70th anniversary cigars in Shelby cars? They were beautiful, right?
Yep.
Why not? Okay, I don't have a problem with that. Retailers, I'm sure, hate it, right? I'm sure retailers are going to hate that, but but I think that part's pretty much okay. But I think there is a line you can cross with it, and it gets. I think it's when you start to get into those areas where the FDA is looking. You don't want to give the FDA ammunition here, and that's where you got to be careful with that. So it can be dangerous with that too.
Right. You're trying to make this argument that we're not appealing to kids and this and that kids, but then you go and you make stuff that's like all fun, like like.
And I'll be honest, I don't think the Moy Ruiz guys had any malintent when they did that. I think afterwards they realized it and they changed the package before it got released. So I'm going to be fair to those guys. They're good guys, those guys.
Right. It's just I don't know. It's something that we've talked about here and there,
Yeah.
and I wanted to hit it.
Right. And then I'll give you a second point where it crosses the line.
I think it's fun. Like as a cigar smoker and like the cigar geek factor, that's like a Garofalo term, the cigar geek factor.
Right.
You love seeing that shit. When you look at it from more of a practical standpoint, you're like, some of these packagings are a little over the top.
Yep.
And you have to think, like, I think of it like also from a business perspective. I'm like, well, what does it cost? Like, some of these things I see that look pretty involved for packaging on a cigar. It's gonna get ripped off, it's gonna get cut light, and then that's it. And it's like, at what point are you like, well, it looks cool and it's appealing, but like, is it really worth the money to go into all this for a cigar?
I totally agree. I totally agree.
Hey, if you know what, if these companies are making money though, like that's great. I'm not knocking them.
Yeah.
It's just, I guess I'd be interested in like the mindset that some of these people go into, and I know they want to make it flashy and appealing, and they're trying to get the attention on it so that they can sell it, and I get that. Just I know how like some people can just be so like they're trying to cut every corner to save every penny, and then it's like you see stuff like this, and I'm like, all right, well, I mean, is it really worth it though? Like, it's cool, and I want it, but it's like, is it worth it? Like from a business standpoint, I think that was my biggest thing.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Espinosa's done a tremendous job with the Let's Say Provincias in their packaging. They've kind of modeled it off the like Cuban design and stuff. So they have one with like Cuban doors. They have another one with like a swing. They've done a great job with it, and it is a little more pricey, but those are keepsakes. I can tell you that they look great in an office or something like that when it's done. So they've done a good job. LaFleur, do you remember the beer stein and the Casa del Tabaco unit? Those are fabulous. I mean,
I think I did. Yeah, I've seen one. I think Garofalo has one in his office. I'm trying to remember where I saw it.
The beer stein is one of the greatest cigars that LaFleur ever made. It was the Maduro of the 1994. John, if you're listening, tell Lito he needs to bring that cigar back.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. That beer stein, I have it up in my office upstairs, and it's great. The only thing that sucked about it, it wasn't a humidor, but I don't think it was designed to be a humidor either. So it was designed to be a beer stein. Matt, the other way it crosses the line, though, and I know I've talked about this on this show, the Pravada stuff is like, and I'm not trying to pick on Pravada because they're not the only ones that did, but when you come out with a packaging that looks like a Cinnabon, right? It's just like, why are you? That's crossing the line. You're disrespecting someone's trademark at that point. You don't, and especially with them, they don't need to do that. They have such a great following, and they're doing good things. Why are you crossing the line with that?
Well, one thing I know we've talked about before on the show is like since you bring that up, we kind of talked about a little bit of packaging and different aspects. So we talked about it was around the time the Dojo came out with the Dojo Chico with Alec and
I
Bradley.
didn't like it. I told him I love Eric, but I don't think they needed to go that route. Both those guys.
And I
Evan
remember
Allen-
the conversation we had was on releases like that, where like they had like the Cookie Monster and stuff like that that was kind
That's
of
just
based on other
yeah.
stuff.
The
And I
Cookie
remember,
Monster stuff's really stupid. That's one that's just incredibly stupid. But yeah,
and I remember we talked about this on the show, and I remember you brought up that point that you know, and this is also where we kind of tie into like the FDA thing too. It's like, well, you come out with cigar that's called like um the Cookie Monster. I saw one recently that has a band on it, and I forget what it said, but like it looked like the Dunkin' Donuts logo,
yes,
and I was like,
yep.
well, it's interesting.
And they know exactly what they're doing. They'll put them out there. The retailers will sell them, and then they're gone and never made again. And you've got a quick hit with money. And until someone gets sued for doing it, people are gonna keep doing it.
Yeah, like especially a company like Dunkin' Donuts, that's a major
Well,
corporation.
that's what I mean. Cinnabon got word of the one they did, and they stopped it.
Right.
I guess they really stopped it fast.
So yeah, I mean stuff like
It's
that.
lazy.
I
It's
find
lazy.
interesting.
It's lazy when you're doing stuff like that. When you see like beer steins and just so creative stuff that comes out, that's good. And even that game box, minus the Milton Bradley, was a cool idea. I'll even say that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a cool idea. You thinking outside the box. Sorry, I'm
Yeah.
already yawning.
But
It's
I hear the excuse on this stuff. Well, we're just having fun. And a lot of beer companies do it. Why? Wait. The beer companies aren't in a fight with the FDA, though. Is the difference? You
right.
know, so
It's true.
they're not fighting for their. They're not fighting like the cigar industry's fighting here. It's a different. Yes, it's different for us. We say we
Um,
don't do these. We're adults and we don't do these types of things. So
right. One of the more interesting things that came out in the news this week, I guess is kind of related to this. I think maybe this is kind of where I got the. It's not really packaging. It's a humidor, and it's the Rolls Royce humidor. Did you hear about this?
um, I haven't seen it. I gotta be honest with you. This was the one.
Let me see if I can do a screen share. Actually,
Okay, yeah, I've seen Rolls Royce humidors in the past, like glove compartment ones.
I'm gonna see if I can pull this up.
Who had the story?
Half Wheel had it.
Okay. Because yeah, we don't get press releases. If we're press, we just don't get press releases. Is what we find. We have to beg borrow for press releases.
Right.
I didn't even see this one on Halfwheel, but I can't say I read them every day either.
Hold on 1 second.
I'm gonna pull them up.
All right.
Here it is. I see it.
I'm gonna
Rolls Royce travel $55,000 traveling humidor.
All right.
Yeah, I see it now.
drop this down. I think I'm screen sharing. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I see it.
All right. So if you're watching home, this is it right here. The Rolls Royce announces the $55,000 travel humidor, and you can see it right here. And I'll enlarge the image.
That is cool.
It's a very interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 55 grand, but that's pretty sweet. And I remember reading it and be like, wow, Rolls Royce took the time to, come up with this concept of a travel humidor. I mean, it's more than that. I mean, you see the
This is
glasses
great.
are in there.
Yeah.
I believe if you shrink this down, here are some other images. You get the hygrometer there right on the side. Obviously, they have an ST DuPont in there.
Yep.
Why not feature other luxury
What?
with it?
Right.
And actually, if you look closer, right in here, you get a holder for a line 2, as well as what looks like a newer version of the kickstand cutter, which
Interesting.
I have with me here. I thought this was the only style they made, but looking at this, it looks like there's now a match to a line 2, which I don't know if that comes in the set. I don't remember reading that. I think that actually might be part of it. Those two DuPonts.
Yep.
Which is cool too. Yes, right here. There are also 2 ST DuPont accessories made specifically for the Celebrate. Yeah. So
imagine if like a cigar company came out with something that holds a bottle of scotch in your car, we'd be accused of I'm talking about a cigar company did this, we would be accused of promoting drinking and driving. But because Rolls-Royce is doing this, right, it's a different story. It's kind of interesting. I just see how things work sometimes. But
Yeah,
this is different, Matt. This is very different. This is, I think, targeting a market, a luxury market item. So I think there's a different story with this.
yeah, I do too. I thought it
Yeah.
was very interesting, and I saw it, and I was like,
Yeah, it is interesting. That really looks cool. I mean, that price tag, I can imagine with the price tag 55K, but I get there's a market for that type of stuff.
and I
Uh,
feel like other than like some of the really high end DuPont cutters and lighters, and maybe some of the humidors, and some of the stuff, like the Opus X Society stuff, and maybe even some of like the high end one off stuff that people like, Fuente does, and some of the other people have done with like the Purple Rain humidor,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that stuff's cool. I feel like there's not a lot of it, and I'm sure there's not as many people who have the money for all that too. So I get that, but it's interesting to see something totally different, like
yeah. I totally
Rolls-Royce
agree.
making
I totally
something.
agree. I think that's cool. It's coming from Rolls-Royce. I think it's even cooler.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
interesting to
yeah,
see someone outside of the industry. You know what? Let's make this.
yeah.
My hope is, seeing that stuff, that maybe, um, you know, other people will think about making stuff for our industry too. Obviously 55 grand is a lot of money. I'm not buying one. You're not buying one. Um, most people we know, most people
Mike
probably
Bellady
have.
will buy one, but that's a different story.
um,
You buy two of
but
them.
but but my hope is that seeing something like that is that maybe someone else out there will think, hey, let me make like a luxury. Maybe it won't
It-
be as expensive, but it'll be something different. It'll be something cool.
Right, and bravo to Hairfield for publishing a story like this, because anytime the mainstream is accessing our industry, it's really good. This is good for our industry when this happens. So this is bravo. I think this type of stuff's the stuff we need to be promoting. I'm glad we're talking about it tonight, because this is something. Yeah, it's great to see a company like Rolls Royce embracing something with our industry.
It does. For me, it's almost like,
Yeah,
oh, like there's other companies out there that are thinking about the cigar industry, which is not always the case. So yeah, I just thought it was refreshing. I said,
I think it's a great story. Yeah. I don't think that by any means crosses the line either. So I think it's a good. That's a positive.
it's very
Case.
elegant too.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
then they pair up with ST DuPont, and there's a custom cutter and lighter in there too. That's part of that set that looks really
Yep.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they really thought of all the elements there.
Yeah. Yeah, it is cool, and I think the luxury market. People say, well, why? It's an important market. You want to have people in the luxury market, um, attached to this industry. I mean, I have a story coming up tomorrow on Coop. It's the SD DuPont Space Odyssey set,
Oh yeah,
which we saw at the show,
we
and
did. That was cool. I liked that a lot.
I was like, damn, can I just buy one lighter? It's $3,500, man. But
I
again,
know.
it's something really special, and SD DuPont's a brand that reaches beyond the cigar industry. Writing and stuff. It's a luxury brand, so.
Oh yeah, they make
Again,
leather goods. They make all sorts of things.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So I think it's a good thing. Even LaFleur did it. Remember they did it with the 25th anniversary, the gold cutters.
Well, those are still available.
Yeah, but
Um,
they've recognized there's probably to tap that market. Why not with that brand? They have a
I,
cigar of the year
I believe
of
they
25th
started.
anniversary. Yeah.
I believe they started 16,000.
Hmm.
And when you buy one, you are part of the club that gets to purchase limited
I
stuff, including
yeah, I think that's awesome. I think it's a great program they put together.
yeah, it really is. It's cool to see, um, someone like LaFleur doing it. I remember when John first told me they were rolling it out, and I was like, wow, that's
Yeah, he showed it to me. He took it out to show it to me at the show, which was really cool to see that. Yeah,
not a lot of people know a lot of that influence comes from, Lito Gomez was also a jeweler.
jeweler. Yep,
Was.
yep.
And his store in Miami was robbed. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
So that's also like a little homage to some of his other endeavors in life, which is cool. It's really cool. It's a lot of money for a gold cutter. It is a lot, and like these luxury, like they're cool, but it's it's like looking at Ferraris and like Bugattis, and it's like they're cool cars, but like they're just insane money for what they
Yeah,
are.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it's still fun to talk about.
It's still fun to talk about. Look, there's watches. There's all sorts of things that kind of touch into these luxury areas that the average person is not going to buy. So there's a market for it, is what I'll say.
Oh yeah, I mean, you talk about watches. I mean, like like Rolex and Breitling, expensive watches, nice watches. That not everyone, but there's a good amount of people who could,
Yeah.
if they really want, they could save up, they could finance, or they could get one, right?
Yeah.
You talk about like Patek Philippe
Yeah.
or Audemars Piguet, right? Those watches start at 20 grand. You know what I mean? And
Oh
then
no,
they go up.
I've been having thoughts about that, getting that DuPont Space Odyssey lighter. I gotta admit it. I don't think I'm gonna.
I can tell you're on that one. You're like,
well, I'm not getting the little stand that comes on. It's another $2,000, but man, I'm like, and look, I have a couple of DuPont lighters. They're great lighters, so I know the quality. I'll get the quality out of it. But am I gonna use it every day? Man, that thing looked when you see it in person, you saw it probably at the show. It's awesome.
I
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
I have some images here. I'm gonna pull some of the images up here. Sorry, 1 second.
And by the way, the Coles of London people who distribute them are great folks. I just want to give them a shout out. They've been great folks to deal with. Anything we've asked, in terms of media coverage, we're getting from them, so that they're really good.
Yeah, right here. This is the Space Odyssey set.
Yep. There's the writing set, and then there's the smoking set.
There's also if I go back to the Google search, there should be. So this is a picture from the trade show. This is what we saw in the display at the show. If you go here,
Yep.
Really cool stuff. There's the
there's the stand. There's the stand, yeah, and it comes with an ashtray also, which is on the lower left.
And then there's also a humidor, which I thought was really cool. And I don't know if there's a picture on here. There was a humidor. I know I have a photo of it in my collection.
I know I have one too somewhere.
I didn't have my.
I'm not sure if it's a humidor or if it's a packaging case, but yeah, it's black. It's that jet black.
Yeah, you're right. And it had right here. Here it is.
There we have it. See,
and it had like that stardust.
Yes. There you go.
Really cool.
It may be a humidor. I didn't ask that.
Yeah, I just assumed. Yep. I just assumed. You're right. It might not even be a humidor.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it right there. And it's got it's got like that the speckles in it, like space the stars. I thought that was really it was real sharp looking. Yeah.
Man, and taking a photo of that, Aaron was really struggling because of that glare with it. But so you can see there's a lot of in the lighting, it's tough, and that's not something you would ask them to pull out of the case either.
No.
So I totally understand that. We didn't even try to ask them that.
Yeah, that was a really cool.
It was, and
really cool thing.
Yeah, and I love every year they did one year a balloon, and literally the balloon would rise and fall, and when it was a unit, the balloon would rise and out would come your lighter. I mean, these were not designed to sell thousands of these things. They're very limited, for certain collectors of this stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
The other big thing that came out this week that was a little interesting was the news of the Marifel brand.
Yes, I think that was my lead story on KMA, and it was actually my lead story for the week on Coop as well.
Yeah,
I think it was a big story.
That was interesting. That was an interesting one.
It wasn't a surprise to me.
No, but it was still interesting.
I thought they had a couple of Marifel branded cigars already, but maybe they put the name on it and it wasn't theirs. That's a question I have to ask Reinhardt about.
Yeah, no, from my understanding, I thought they had released a Marifel brand before, and this was almost like a return.
There was one in the 1800s, but I thought there was a more recent one as well. There are sirens outside here.
I was just gonna say, I hear that.
I'm in a cul-de-sac, but they're on the main road, so they're going away.
Okay, there we go. I thought maybe the house was on fire.
No. My son didn't set the fire alarm off this week, so.
The Red Stage in Indian Trail, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Is it safe?
But
yeah, no. I mean, I thought it was interesting. It's something that I'm excited to try. It's one
Oh,
of the
I'm very excited to try this.
anybody
This
who
is
knows the Marifels and the Cameroon tobacco that they're known for. You've probably smoked it if you've smoked any of Arturo Fuente's cigars. You've probably smoked it, especially the Don
Yep.
Carlos uses the Marifel Cameroon wrapper on it.
Yep.
Um,
I doubt it's
very.
gonna be. I bet it's not gonna be Cameroons they release. So maybe they'll release one, but I bet it's gonna be other stuff.
What do you think that he would release?
I think it's gonna be more. I mean, I don't think they could do. I think it's gonna be. I would guess something Habano
Yep.
wrapper because I don't think they have enough. I mean, I think they're probably the Cameroon they have is spoken for unless they're gonna take away supply. They're not gonna take away supply from the Fuente here. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I doubt that.
So, I could see them having one line with a Cameroon, but I don't think it's gonna be an all Cameroon brand. And but it was a great story because this is probably the most exciting brand to launch since Placencia 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, you think of the Mirafels, they are an iconic family of tobacco brokers. Like they've been doing this a long time, and they do it in a part of the world that you don't hear much about. And I've interviewed Jeremiah. He's a fantastic guy. I think this is. I mean, my question is: this going to be a European brand? Is it going to be a U.S. brand? Is Fuente making the cigars for them? Is a big question. I would assume Fuente is going to be involved production wise. But who knows? Maybe they are looking at someone else. I don't know. That's there's a lot of good. They haven't talked a lot about what's coming out yet.
No, they have not.
Just announced the company. And our friend Reinhardt, great opportunity for him. Thanks, Reinhardt. He got me the press information too. I really appreciate him getting me that. I mean, I think it's a great opportunity for him. So I couldn't be happier for him. I think he's a good guy, and this is something we're going to be very anxiously looking forward to. At least this is something that's got my interest right now.
Sorry, I'm just adding something to my list here. Yeah, one thing that I did find on here was in 2014 they introduced the La Estancia, a cigar that was made in Honduras that used tobacco from Cuba, but not Cameroon.
See, I thought there was some stuff that they came out with, and I've heard it.
This sounds like it's going to be a little bit different than that, though. I feel like it's going to be.
I don't know. They may have been distributing that though.
Mm-hmm.
So, in other words, this is a little different than they're making it and distributing it, is how I took this.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I think this is going to be bigger than that. I think it's going to be a little more involved.
I mean, and here's what wasn't a surprise: the whole Mirafel Cameroon theme. I kind of thought it was meant to promote Mirafel's name. Right. I mean, I think it was. And don't get me wrong, I think it was a great campaign that Fuente put together. But I also think there was something. Even when it was started, that was my first reaction. I wonder if the Mirafels are going to get into producing their own lines now. So,
yeah, I mean, I certainly think that they're, equipped to do so.
Yeah.
With everything they have, at their disposal.
Sure. I mean, they definitely have the resources to do it. I doubt they'll be producing these cigars in Cameroon. No, just from talking to Jeremiah, I can tell you that I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah. But I wonder, maybe a Cameroon Puro would be a wish list thing. If anyone's gonna do a Cameroon Puro, it would be those guys, right?
I would follow your lead on that one. I think if anyone's gonna do, I mean, that's what they're known for. I mean, their biggest claim to fame is the Cameroon tobacco.
Yep. Yeah, and his story is just like I said. When you hear this story, it's an amazing story. What this family's endured over the years and how they persevered. But look, their Cameroon leaf speaks for itself as well. Mm-hmm. So, but when you learn the story behind it, it's you have so much. Like after I interviewed Jeremiah, I never smoked an Opus X the same again. And then after talking to Carlito a few weeks later, I look at that brand so differently now. I have such an appreciation for that cigar, and I always love that cigar. Don't get me wrong, but now your mind, you've talked to Carlito and you talked to them, what they went through at Opus X. So,
I do. Yep.
Yeah. So it's an amazing story. And like I said, when you hear Jeremiah's point of view, I think that's going to be a big part of. And look, Reinhardt's a perfect guy to be the ambassador for that brand too. So, he's going to be in a sales role. That's a little different for him. I don't know how he's going to do in a sales role, but as far as a brand ambassador, I can't. I think it's perfect. He's very close to Jeremiah, so I think that's going to help too.
Yeah, I have nothing but respect for those guys, and I wish
Yeah.
them all the best on this.
Yep.
I wish them
Yeah.
the
Just
best
get
on
me
the
the press release earlier, guys. But
That's all Coop
but
wants.
got it.
You just give
They
me a
took
press
care.
release.
They fixed that. That John Ryan, I got that fixed. So that's all cool.
um, yeah. So I mean, I wanted to hit on that because I thought it was great news, and I thought it was
I thought it was
really cool.
fantastic. I said it's one of the most exciting things I'm looking forward to going into next year right now. Is this, and I assume it's the 2022 thing we're going to hear about.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's something we can see at the trade show next year as well. And
Yeah, I think it'll be real. I mean, that's gonna be very exciting. I wonder if my guess is they'll probably launch beforehand, maybe do one line and come out with another line at the trade show. A lot of questions still to be answered on this, as we're gonna learn in the next few weeks.
yeah, I agree. There will be more, and it will get it out to everyone as soon as we get it. All right, I think it's time,
Okay.
and I want to make sure we have plenty of time to get into
Uh,
it.
mhm.
So this is really gonna be Coop's corner of the show, because I know this is one thing that you really wanted to talk about. The Premium Cigar Association earlier this week hosted the International Policy Summit, which was also involved our friend Reinhard,
Yep.
who was a mediator at this, I believe, was his role.
Yep. Moderator. Yep.
Moderator. My bad.
Yep.
Moderator of this event. Tell me, right off the bat, we'll start with this. We'll make it simple, then we'll dissect it. What are your likes and dislikes about this event?
Well, I love the fact that they're calling attention to international policy. It's something that's been talked about for many years. But mostly you've heard about this through interviews with like Glenn Loop, Joshua, and maybe Scott Pierce. It's not something that's gotten. So we've talked about on various shows about this and how important it is. And I think Glenn's done a good job with his role at CRA of pointing out the importance of this. And namely, what are the economic impacts outside the U.S.? Regulation hits the U.S., a huge market. It has a ripple effect on the producing countries of this stuff. It can even ripple effect into some of the other trade markets there. So I loved that they did this, and I applaud them for doing this. That's a big positive there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
yeah, and yeah, I think that was
I think it's great to see them involved internationally too.
Yeah,
and we had Scott Pierce on the show last week, and he we talked about it, and it was their way of also just kind of opening outside of the confines of just us, and in getting in touch with other countries and other people that have similar like-minded things going on, and it's just being able to communicate and having that line of communication and connection as a cigar, worldwide as a cigar industry, not just domestically, so to speak.
Yep. There was another big positive, and I'm going to give the PCA a huge attaboy. So the meeting kicked off with they were taped, okay? They were recorded, and we'll get to that. I'm okay with that for now. So they had on Senator Marco Rubio and Senator Bob Menendez. Bob Menendez is from New Jersey. Marco Rubio is from Florida. And they did a great job of setting the table and understanding the issues. And bravo to the PCA for not going down a partisan route with this. Big bravo. There was never a mention of that, as far as I heard, of Republican and Democrat. Doesn't matter what you think of Bob Menendez or Marco Rubio. They did a good job with that. So I was critical of that CRE email a few weeks ago, but great job they did here. Great job getting those guys. Great job. The guys were prepared, and I think they did a great job with that.
I think it was I would agree. I think it was a success. However, I know that there are some things that I know you didn't like about it.
Yeah.
So what did
there
you
are some things I didn't like about it? Okay. First of all, this is something everyone should watch and listen to. So this is not a waste of time. There were some people very critical of this that I've gotten. I didn't see the thing live, first of all, because I was at my day job. So I only watched it yesterday. So because I wanted to give it the attention it needed. There were two problems I had with it. Number one was the production, and number two was it wasn't moderated well. I got to just come out and say that. Now, I'll kind of get to that. So let's talk about the production. The production was very kludgy. The production wasn't very professional, in my opinion.
Okay.
And when you're trying to spotlight your industry, and you have on guys like a Bob Menendez and a Marco Rubio, you got to be much more crisp for how you integrate that stuff in there. To me, the whole thing had felt like a Zoom chat. And I know this is nitpicking, right? I know this is nitpicking, but honestly, I think this needed to be polished and much more professionally done. All right. So because we're trying to spotlight our industry, we're trying to like really make this shine. Wasn't something that would stop me from watching it, but I'm just trying again. I'm trying to make us look in the most positive light possible, and that production was not good. I'll be honest with you.
I would agree.
Did you see? Did you get a chance to see it yet, or no?
I didn't get a chance to watch the whole thing. I've seen bits and pieces of it.
Yeah. Okay.
I've seen.
I think you understand what I'm.
But
look,
I understand where you're coming
from. Our
show.
It should look a lot better. And I'm not saying our show's bad. I'm just saying this thing needed to be a showpiece. Look at what Abe did. I'm not saying you have to spend the money Abe did, but there's some happy medium where this could have been much more polished.
Yeah, I think what you're trying to say is you felt that for what it was and the size of the organization and the level of importance that it carried, including but not limited to some of the people that were in attendance. It should have been in something that you're going to showcase to the world. Like, hey, here we are. We're serious. We're not messing around.
Right.
It should have looked a little bit more. I don't want to use the word legitimate.
Right.
Because I feel like that can get taken the wrong way. So I won't. But I definitely needed to look more refined and a little bit more regal for an organization.
Yeah.
I agree. I'll admit that I think that it could have been better, but hopefully this is something that they learned from, and they can. The next time around they do something.
This is exactly this. This is not to say these guys did a bad job. Okay.
No.
And my next piece is going to be a little more sensitive, but I'll explain why I'm going to talk about the next piece as well. But this is not to say they did a bad job. I don't think they did a bad job. This was an important issue. I'm so glad it's getting attention, and I'm so glad this happened. But I think you can build on this for the next time.
Right. I agree. And I don't want to discourage anyone by
Look, this is why PCA asks for money too. I mean, so you want to know why PCA needs money? They need money for things like this. So it isn't fundraising so important with this. That's why I think, we can't beat them up too much on fundraising. And this is
why, like, this is a good example when we always talk about, well, PCA is more than a trade show.
Yeah, exactly.
People want to, it's a trade show. I understand. PCA holds a very big, popular, large trade show that we all attend. But it's not. Premium Cigar Association is not a trade show company. The trade show is held to fund everything else that they do that keeps them in existence.
And this is something
this is where the money goes to these special important events with politicians and international and raising attention and having discussions and doing the nitty-gritty groundwork for the industry, not the trade show itself. The trade show is a fundraising component. Think of the PCA trade show as like a school fundraiser. They have like the excuse me. They have like the bake sale of the car wash, right? They're raising money for like the sports teams or whatever.
Yep.
Well, the PCA trade show is like the school bake sale of the car wash, and the sports and the events at the school, and like the PTA and all that crap, right? That's the cigar legislative stuff. That is the more important part that they need money to do. Without the money, they can't really do it.
Yep.
That's, if you want to break it down, that's what it is.
Yep.
So something like this is the actual thing that PCA is here for. And that's why there's a trade show. The trade show is so that they can do things like this.
Yep.
Which help all of us. It's
very
not,
important.
oh, we just want to have a trade show. Everyone can come hang out.
Yep.
No, it's not a social party. It's a fundraising component to these legislative issues.
Yep. I totally agree with you on that.
I just feel like that really needed to be broken down and explained.
Yeah, and it's important. That's why it was important. And again, I understand. Look, I think they should have still had it as opposed to not having it, even if they had limited budget to produce this thing. But I think it kind of underscored the importance that they need to do more stuff like this, and it needs to be much more professionally polished when this is presented to the general public and to some key people you're looking to make moves with. You just want to have this in it. It's like any proposal you do for business. You want this thing to look really good. It didn't. I'm sorry, it didn't. It was sloppy, and it looked like a Zoom call. That's what it felt like. It felt like a Zoom call all along.
Yeah, I mean, and I know a lot of people probably have been comfortable with Zoom calls and stuff like
Yeah,
that. Just
well,
be
people are
given the
comfortable with the scale back trade show as well, which I have my issue on that as well. So, but in this case, I think it needed to be much more polished.
now outside of that, what other suggestions would you make to PCA?
The moderating, and look, this is not saying the moderators are bad. Glenn Loop and Reinhardt are tremendous guys, and they know how to do this.
Great people.
But they're great people, and we were very happy to have them on it. The problem was it was too open-ended, the questions that were being asked. So a lot, particularly in the first segment with Glenn, a lot of people some of the people were rambling on. They lost the audience. Okay. And it's a shame because the guys talking were saying good things. You have to kind of, just like you just said when we went into the segment, we got to break it down into smaller chunks that are more digestible.
Yeah.
You got to have a question. You can't let people ramble on like that, because the first two guys, they weren't very well known guys. They were a little monotone. So you kind of have to reel that in, and I think they need to have a much more segmented piece with those guys. And what really saved it was the second piece when Lito came on, and particularly Jeremiah came on, and when Alan Rubin came on. And I'm telling you, when Jeremiah came on, that whole thing took a different turn. Like when you heard Jeremiah's story, and Luciano, I can't forget Luciano, right?
Yeah.
When they came on, that was, I still think that needed to be also a little more segmented. Don't get me wrong, but it kind of turned, and because those guys are people know those people. They're very passionate people. And I think it connected. Like Luciano did a tremendous. Luciano's part. He talked about the charity pieces that people are doing in these countries. There was a lot of good information, but I think it just needed to be a little more segmented. I think that's fixable. So, and I think there's no reason why Glenn and Reinhardt can't do this again. They were more than able to do this. So, I just think it needed a little more work in that area, because again, if you watch that first 45 minutes, we always talk about our show, like we always want to keep people interested, but you don't want to lose your audience and drop off. And if people dropped off before listening to the second half, they missed out on a lot, is what I'm saying. So those are the two things. This is not beating it up at all. Those are the two things I would take away and fix it next time. And I think they're on the right track with this. And I think they could do other platforms, other topics, and you do those two things. I think suddenly it's going to be a good thing. And bravo to the PCA. We haven't seen PCA do anything like this as far as I know. So, and they promoted it well. So you can't say they didn't. Like I saw Juan Cancel say, well, no, it was on something else. It was actually related to the PCA, I guess, happy hour they had. He said, well, no one invited me. I'm like, Juan, they promoted this. You can't say they didn't promote that happy hour. And they promoted this summit. They did what they needed to do there to promote this. Now I think you just got to deliver the package there so people come back next time.
I agree. I think that they've done a great job at their promotions.
Yep.
Especially their promotions for donations and funding requests, which I know is a separate issue on its own for some people, depending on what your views are. But they get it out. The word gets out there. And you can't argue that they don't get the information out there publicly. Yes, there's in the past they've been known to not be as information accessible with certain things.
They've improved a lot. I mean, if you're saying that, you haven't. Yeah, if people are saying that, they haven't been tuned in enough, in my opinion.
Right. But I'm saying, like, there has been times when they've dropped the ball on the wave that they've been able to get information to people, but for the most part, their promotions of stuff publicly has been pretty good, especially as of lately. What is since we're talking about PCA, what is your at this stage of the game, what's your feeling on kind of the leadership behind PCA and some of the people on the board, and some of the things that we've seen this year. Even since the trade show has ended.
I'm positive on just about everything right now. I've said this. I think we have the best executive director in the history of the PCA and Scott Pierce.
Hmm.
And people, yes, he's been very friendly to the media, but look, I gotta just say, he's doing a lot of great things, and he's very transparent, and you can see his influence is starting to go into the organization really well. So I have a lot of confidence. What he did with the trade show on a short staff, we got to give him credit. No, what things perfect? Absolutely not, absolutely not. But I think that's a really good sign. I think on the as far as the board of directors go, Greg Zimmerman, I know Greg for many years. They fantastic person to have as the president of this organization. So he's got a big endorsement from me. We have some new board members on there as well. I think board members aren't going to. Jay's very vocal and accessible, but look, board members, that's not really their job to be vocal and accessible. It's really, you have people in the organization to do that. So it's important that if they're working behind the scenes to do some of the right things, and we'll start to see how that body of work goes over the next few months and years. So I think they've done some right things on that. So I have some questions about next year's trade show, but we're having a trade show and we're going to be fine. So, but I think I feel there was like a cigar dojo show where they did cigar stock market, and whether you buy like as a stock, would you buy PCA stock, sell PCA stock, or hold it? I think I'd hold it right now. I don't know if I'm ready to buy more yet, but I'm certainly not going to sell it. I think they're doing some right things right now where I'm going to hold on to that stock. And that's an indication to me that I believe in the organization and I believe in how it's being run right now. But now, let's see where they can go with that.
Yeah, we had Scott Pierce on the show last week, as I said before, and we brought up a lot of topics, a lot of and I was very open with him, and as said, hey, obviously there's been a lot of criticisms on certain things towards the PCA. The trade show has had mixed reviews, and there has been people who have said like, oh, this will be the last trade show, like blah blah blah.
That's not the case.
And he was like, no, I mean, if you're not paying attention, like we're not going anywhere. We're going to be here for years to come. We have changes we're going to make, but we're not going anywhere. We're not,
Yeah.
we're not bleeding the way people think we are.
Yeah.
This trade show is not collapsing the way people
Yeah.
think that it is, and
No.
those people just don't understand. Which I thought was an interesting point. He spoke with such confidence. I think that there's a good leadership here, and I think that they're going to be making some changes.
Yeah. And on the legislative end, Josh and Glenn are doing a tremendous job as well.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I think there's still some. I still think they need to iron out what they're doing in conjunction with CRA rather. But that's something I think I'm confident we'll see something develop with that. So I'm gonna just give them the benefit of the doubt there.
Do you think that what kind of impact do you think that Glenn leaving CRA for PCA has had on CRA?
I think it was time for Glenn to leave CRA.
Okay.
When you're in a position like that for 12, 13 years, sometimes you do need a new voice at the helm. So I think it was time. The good news is moving Glenn into the PCA, I think, has been a good move with that. Where CRA is hurting is they don't have anyone. They've not put anyone to replace that person in 11 months. So there's not been an executive director of the Cigar Rights of America in 11 months. And I think that showed when that email went out last month. I talked about the partisan stuff. I think there's things lacking there. I think that I still don't know sometimes if something's coming from CRA or PCA. I almost feel like they say they're working together, but the communications don't seem to be in sync enough for me. So I think they need an executive director, but I think it was time for Glenn to move into another role. Not because of his ability or anything. It's sometimes just time. It's like a coach. Sometimes you need a new voice in the locker room. And the good news, we have Glenn in the in our industry still. So I think that's a big positive.
Yeah, absolutely. I was excited to see him come to PCA, and I thought this would be interesting to have him on that side.
We would look. You could criticize Glenn. We've criticized Glenn a lot and stuff, or I have. And he's always been great, about taking the criticism. But let me just say this: we would not have had progress like we did without Glenn Loop's service. So, he did it. Did he do a great job? No, because obviously we would have had, we wouldn't have had some of the situations happen. But he's done a good job.
Yeah, I think he's done a great job. Even at the show, I get to run into him in the show and catch up and talk for a little bit, and just ask him questions and hear him, talk about how he felt and what they were doing, and I felt confident in the way, um, that the approach was being taken.
Yeah.
I know not everyone would agree on certain things, but again, I think it all comes down to how much information and what you pay attention to and what all that kind of stuff. I think a lot of times people hear the headline and they just jump to their own conclusion, but if you take the time to read the whole article, or you take the time to pay attention and you look at everything that's going on, that you understand so much more and you can see it from different lights and different perspectives, which I think is the most important part.
There was an interesting. I'm going to bring this up.
Go ahead.
I'm talking to you about this.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see Cigar Authority today?
No, I didn't get to. Today was an errand day for me.
Yeah. By the way, congrats! 600 episodes. Incredible. They do a great job.
Congratulations, guys. I love you guys.
Yeah. Barry made an interesting comment, and this is not to pick on Barry with the comment. I just want to know, and he didn't get a chance to explain it, but I would like to understand where it came from. He said, and it was kind of cut off. He kind of got cut off, right? He said he believes that eventually bloggers, and he used the word bloggers, would be banned from the trade show. And let me tell you, I've been dealing with the trade show for 11 years, and there are times I thought we might get banned, or I might get banned specifically. I have no indication to believe that's true, so I'm trying to understand where that came. I actually want to ask him that, because I mean he may have an opinion on that. But I say this because I think we've had such accessibility, and I think we've had good transparency with them that I don't see that happening. And he used the word bloggers. He didn't use the word influencers. So there's a big difference there too. And like I said, you've been to the trade show. I think the media has never been in a better position with the trade show and with the people exhibiting at the trade show, they wanted us in these booths, right? It never used to be like that, Matt. I'm telling you, it never used to be. They want, and
we were really welcomed this year at the trade show. They were excited.
And look, George Padron said, "Can you come back?" Right? And when we came back, he was ready for us. I mean, it was just like, I'm just saying, there's nothing for me to indicate that would happen, other than if there's something like, if someone's really getting like I could see if we're really getting critical and damaging, if someone's doing that, I think it would be an isolated case on that. But I don't see any indication. I think, like I said, to me, this was, and by the way, the word blogger never came up at the trade show, if you notice that, because there aren't a lot of bloggers at the trade show anymore. I'm probably one of the last of them, if you think about it.
In terms of actual strict blogging, yeah, I mean, I would say the evolution is, come along.
No, so Barry may have a different spin on that, so I'm not trying to criticize him, but I thought it was an interesting comment, and that's why it kind of flowed into this conversation, I thought, a bit. Again, I think you've had accessibility to the executive director as well as I have. I mean, you got him on a show. Like, we didn't book that through a PR person or anything,
Yeah, no.
So, Scott, anytime we got him on the floor at the show, I mean, never had this type of act. Since I know Barry hasn't been in a trade show for a while, and I could see maybe from afar, but I was surprised to hear that comment today still. So I kind of want to get a little more clarification on that.
Yeah, it's an interesting comment, and I'm sure that there is a clarification.
Look, if you go back to 2014, absolutely, Barry was not wrong on that. But this is 2021 right now.
And I can say, I gotta be, I want to be a little cautious with what I say, because I've had private conversations with Scott Pierce. And I can tell you that's not the case.
No.
If anything, it's the opposite. They want to embrace the media more. I think the only thing with PCA is they just want to make sure that it's done correctly. That's all.
I think that's what they want to do, and I think that's what they should do.
And I can tell you that firsthand. I believe that's the case.
Yeah.
From things that were said to me in conversations that I've had with multiple people.
Yeah.
People at PCA. That's the understanding that I have.
Yeah. I would say yes. There's no doubt about that. Based on conversation, I don't know if we've probably had different conversation threads, but yeah. look, a couple of years ago when I really blasted the IPCPR about that 2019 trade show, I thought I was on thin ice for sure. But there were things I worked to fix that relationship. But I was very critical of them 2 years ago.
And
I thought it was yeah.
And then, you know what though? Sometimes you have to be. I mean,
I had to
that's
do my job. Yeah.
that's part of it. You have to understand too, as media, we're gonna say things that you might not like, but we're not doing it to
Look, I
we're not
just
doing
said
it to be
something.
harass anyone.
Yeah.
We're just calling it like,
Yeah.
you watch the game on Sunday, right? If someone makes a bad play, they're gonna be like, "Oh, that was a bad play." He didn't throw that ball right.
Yeah.
The accuracy wasn't there. They're gonna call it like they see it. It was a bad play, but no one's just picking on the guy. I mean, it's just kind of how it is. But it's sometimes that's good for you though. You get that
Yeah.
feedback and you
Yeah.
can make some changes, and they go like, "Wow, look at that! They rebounded and they came back from
Yeah.
that. They made some changes. It
Yeah.
was awesome this time." You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then
Yeah.
you get praise,
Yeah.
which is important too.
Yeah. They do. Yeah. And look, I also think that just back to Barry's comment, he may have a good reason why he said that too. So
True.
I'm not discrediting what he said at all. I haven't seen that, but it was an interesting comment to hear today. I wish they had expanded on a bit, but they were doing other stuff in that segment, so I kind of understand it too.
I almost wonder if it came from. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about some of the people who attended PCA, who I think some people didn't, feel should be there, or there was some
We've had that.
people.
That's been an ongoing debate for years too. Yep.
So I don't know if maybe because that's just been such a prevalent topic, if maybe Barry was alluding to it like, hey, like they might just kick everyone out because there's been some problems with the small
Yeah.
amount of individuals. That's possible. That's maybe what he was referring to, and maybe he didn't convey that message the right way.
Could you imagine if let's say they did that, right? They
Mhm.
would be like we would go to the manufacturing community. There'd be World War III, based on because again the reception that all the media got this year for the most part. The people who covered the show was incredible. I mean, Ben Lee, who's been covering this longer than anybody, saw the difference. If anyone knows about this, it's Ben Lee. He was covering this in the darkest days and he was on the receiving end of some pretty hefty stuff when he was at Stogie Review. So for him to see some things was so encouraging to hear that from him.
A couple of comments so first of all, to back up a little bit, Jay had commented on what you said before. The production quality was below par. The flow of the program was too loose.
Too loose. Yeah, that's
the
exactly.
moderation was weak. Decent for his effort, but if I was a staffer for Rubio, I would say the overall package was not as professional as it could have been.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. I think that's
the feedback that we've gotten from Jay.
Yeah, and I respect Jay on that. I agree. I think we're on the same page with that.
Yeah.
Again, good first effort. We're not saying this was and by the way, everyone should go watch that. Shame on you if you haven't gone and watched that yet. I know you haven't got a chance to go to it. I'm not picking on, but it's out there on recording. And that's why it's out there for recording. So definitely go out there and listen to it.
Mark Vansel Wright says certain very influential cigar manufacturers have embraced social media and cigar media personnel in the last 18 months to 2 years.
Oh, it's big.
It may have made an impact industry wide. I think you're right though, and I think.
Oh yeah.
I think that there's a I can tell you firsthand there's a few people over at the PCA who want to work with us to make media presence better. And I think that there's a lot of manufacturers too who also would be like, well, we want the certain like I can tell you there's a good amount of manufacturers who would go to them and be like, there's a certain group of media personnel we want there. So
Yeah, I hope it wouldn't be like a selective system, but in general, if you fall into a category, and meet the criteria, right, is what I would say. And that's always been the debate at that.
And Barry's been around a long time too. So again,
look, he's been on both ends of this, and this is not a disrespect or pick on him.
And he knows stuff too.
So that's why I'm saying I think I would have loved to hear, and I'm going to ask him about that because I'm just kind of curious, on that because I think it's a fair thing to hear him. I think he's worth. I was just surprised. It was all of them, like, especially after this last year with the 2021 show, which I thought was the biggest breakthrough media had. Outside of print media. Now, don't get me wrong, this is a print media first business. Anyone tells me otherwise, they're full of shit. Okay, the print media is always put first, right? So
Oh yeah, absolutely.
absolutely, and every company will put print media first. I don't care what they say. I can tell you, I've had it, and I've said 100 times they will. So, but I ain't complaining about the type of access, or for the most part, I think we've been treated well. So, I think we still have a long way to go to before we meet print media.
Yeah, I mean, you look at something that's along those lines, I would say.
Yep.
By the way, I am lighting up this El Septimo short dream. Oop, sorry. I thought I cracked the cap on it, but I did. It's just a flake from the cut piece.
By the way, this 724 is fantastic. Yeah, this is a great cigar.
I can't say enough about that cigar.
I can't. This is my last one too. So Kurt, you got to get these out, man.
I think I have one more in there, but it's Nicole's, so I'm not smoking it. I'm gonna let her have it.
Yeah, good idea. That's the one disadvantage to having a significant other as part of the business, is if they access the cigars.
For me, a lot of the time, I try to, especially when I get new stuff, I try to always make sure I have a minimum of 2, so that way she can try stuff too.
Yeah.
So that way I can try one, she can try one, we can talk about it.
Yep.
So I know I had one in Las Vegas at the time because I couldn't wait, and it was good. I should have waited, but it was still good, so I'd have no regrets. There is one more in there, but I'm saving it for her so she can.
Yeah, I think it's a wise move, and I'm sure there'll be more of these out. So,
but what was I gonna say? Yeah, so I'm lighting this up. This is I think my 3rd El Septimo cigar I've had. So far, I've liked them.
I've liked them too.
I would say for me, I like them a lot. I think they're a good quality cigar. I can see the market that they're trying to sell to. I understand that. I think for me, I went into it expecting like Atabey Byron, and I don't know if I don't know if I feel that though.
No, their price point's a little higher because of Costa Rica is more expensive to make a cigar,
right?
And that's where they're making it. I think that brand, they need a brand ambassador in the worst way.
Mm-hmm.
Not the CEO. I think because he's got other business things. They have a vice president of sales. I think that's good, but they need that kind of person on the ground now. I think it's the next step to find someone who could get behind the brand and be a brand ambassador for that. And I think that's going to be their key move, because I think they have the product. I do. I think they do need to.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean,
they got the product.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, it is. It is good. Yeah.
But I think you're right. I think they need someone who has to be the face. I mean, look at. I mean, you bring up a good point. There are certain people out there in the industry who run brands or own brands or whatever.
Yep.
You look at Arturo Fuente. It's Carlito. I mean,
it's Carlito, but look what Jose's been doing in Europe the past few weeks.
Right.
I mean, he's got his ground game going now.
Jose in Europe.
Yeah.
But Carlito. You look at Ferry Otego. Look at Nat Sherman. It was Michael. Michael's the face.
And Michael's going to have to be in that role for a while.
Right.
It's going to be hard for him to separate from that role, is what I'll say.
So I'm not discrediting what you said. I give those examples because I think that those are brands who have done it well, with the guy at the top being the face. In Michael's case, he has to be. In Fuente's case, there's such a it's the family.
It's a family.
I mean, all of them. You got Cynthia, Liana, are also faces of the brand too. And that's them. You got Nick Perdomo, face of Perdomo.
Yep.
Jorge Padron, face of Padron. There are owners and CEOs or whatever who are the face of their own company. But I feel like with El Septimo, I think you're right. I think that it's just such a different company.
Yeah.
It's not that family bread company like those other brands, where you need someone who's a little bit more like Zaya. I think Zaya is good. I think he's done a great job.
I think so. So they're saying that's not what he's going to be meant to do.
Like, I think there's someone who could come in and do that for him, while he focuses on the bigger picture.
Yes, I totally agree. And the thing about Nick Perdomo is Nick's got a very, and same with Oliva. Those are two companies that have very strong sales forces that can be the reps can be ambassadors to the brand to some extent. When Nick, Corey's at Oliva, but they can't be everybody says other responsibilities. So I think they're well taken care of with that. Michael's going to be an interesting story though, because as Michael grows, he's going to have less time for that. So it's going to be interesting to see what Michael's role is going to be. But for the size of his company right now, it's fine.
Yeah, I think that they have good cigars. I think they've done a good job, starting to get into the U.S. market, and I think they're going to continue to grow.
Yeah.
But when they get that right person who can really take it
Yeah.
and run with it, I think they'll see a dramatic increase.
Yeah.
Even at their price point that they have, you know what I mean? They have a crazy price point to some people, but there are people out. There's enough people out there who will spend it on those cigars.
But McAuliffe had a crazy price point for a long time, and now they've gotten some lower price point stuff in, and you could see that it's there. You could see that Dan's roles increased a lot in the last few months. Dan's more and more becoming the other face of that company behind Al.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Dan's doing a great job of being a good face of that company. And what they've done in their ambassador group.
Yep.
And working
one
with
of the
their
best job ever done with an ambassador group. I think we could say that.
And being accessible to people. I think that's the other thing. Accessibility. I think there was a time when, there would be an event, and you'd come and you get to see these people and you get to take a picture and you get to buy the boxes and whatever. And now what you're seeing, and I think this also kind of builds on what Mark was saying, the game has really changed in the last 18 months to 2 years.
Yep.
Especially with the pandemic and everyone having to change their approach.
Yep.
It's allowed people to be more accessible. And I think what you're seeing, I mean, I'm not saying that every consumer is accessible to all of these people, but like directly. But I think what you're seeing is, I mean, look at the Fuente family. They've done a really great job of being more accessible.
Yeah, I mean, they woke a sleeping giant is really what happened.
Nick Perdomo has done a great job at getting out there more and being more accessible to folks. I think they all have to an extent. And I think that's going to continue to build and grow.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And going back to Mark's point again, there were people that a few years ago we would have never had this type of access to the trade show. I'm just telling you that.
Absolutely.
It was. I mean, I go back 3 years ago. What would have been the case with that? So I think I've mentioned this too. I was always patient with this. Like it's gonna come. It's gonna come. I just kept knocking on the doors, and it comes. There's still some companies I'm trying to knock on. I mean, I made big progress with Ashton this year. I got a long way to go with that. Don't get me wrong, but I made progress with Ashton this year. That was a tough door to crack. So we just continue. I think as media, we just got to continue to just work it and be fair, and I think it will come.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing I think is the manufacturers realizing the level of importance that we have, and but not even just with us, like with everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, even with Nick Perdomo, I mean, you go on like Facebook, right? They have the Perdomo Cigars Facebook group, and Nick's active in there. And I've watched
totally. Nick reads every one of those things. I guarantee that.
And there's people who've posted like pictures of like his cigars, and they have a problem. He'll comment.
Like send it back. Get it to me.
Send it back. We're gonna make this right.
Yeah.
And it makes the customer and the consumers feel, like, first of all, they have a voice that's being listened to. Like the guy that owns the company is like, yeah, send it back. We'll take care of it. I'm reading your comment. I see you have an issue. Like I take the time to get into it instead of just being like, oh yeah, whatever. Well, someone will deal with it.
It's a very yes.
It's changed in so many ways. It's not just media. Even with the regular consumers. I mean, they're on, and social media has played a huge part of it too. McAuliffe's done well with it. Perdomo's done a good job with it. A lot of people have done a good job with it.
Yeah,
they're all on there, and they're excited. Look at Saka. Saka's another one. He's on Facebook every day.
When Saka was at Drew Estate, he was not very accessible. I'll just tell you that, and not because he didn't want to be. It was just his role. He was just in Nicaragua so much, and he was behind the scenes so much. And when Saka came out, it was a big surprise. People didn't expect that from him.
Yeah, I mean, the level of direct communication from them.
Yeah.
Has been great.
He's done a great job. Yeah.
Mark made another comment. Carlito is a prime example. He's everywhere. Fuente needs a new tag because #where's Carlito just doesn't fit anymore. That's true. He's out there more. I mean, he's on Instagram now, and he's a little more active on Facebook. He's been on shows. The Meet the Professor show, I think, has been good for them.
I think it's been great. They've done a great job they found a niche with that show.
Yeah, I mean, you got Jeremiah, you got Jose and Carlitos on there, and and they're every week. They got whatever they got going on. They got people coming on. They have conversations, but they're there. They're some that you can tune into, and before that wasn't really the case. You didn't really get to see that much of them, which I think is changed.
Well, and I think Carlito will tell you he kind of called himself a dinosaur, right? He really wasn't, right? It was just this is the world he didn't really know. And then he saw the opportunities. And one of the things Carlito told me is why he's been doing these shows and stuff is he wants these stories to be preserved forever. And
that's also a good point.
Yeah, I mean, and he was saying, look, the stories with his father, they're not preserved out there in terms of a recording. There's not a lot of that stuff. So these things are very important to these guys. All of our shows are archived in all of our media brands, and they're all accessible at any time. So, it's very important.
Christian Arrow is another one. He's out there making videos every week.
Yeah, Christian's done it. Husto's gotten good at it too.
Yeah, he's out there a lot now.
Husto's a shy guy, and he's gotten better. He's gotten so much better at it. But he's a shy guy, Husto, and you wouldn't know it from talking to him. But he gets a little shy in front of that. He was a little shy, but now he's very comfortable in front of the camera, is what I noticed.
As is Kirk Kendall. Kirk Kendall's also
he
kind of quiet. He doesn't like the camera. But he'll do it. I know, but it's not something that he's really comfortable with. I would say Pete Johnson also.
Pete Johnson's done a great job.
He's done a great job. I think he's also someone who gets a little shy with the camera, which is funny because when you meet Pete Johnson, you get to know him, you talk to him. He doesn't seem like that. You're like, oh yeah, Pete's cool.
No,
but then the camera comes out and he's like, man, I mean, all right, yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it. You can tell he's nervous.
Yeah, I mean, we had Corey from Oliva on, which is like a guy you don't really know, but this is the top guy at Oliva right now, and to hear him, like if you don't know Corey, man, he's a great and interesting guy, and he gets it. So sometimes these faces who may not be on these things as much, sometimes they're just not as gregarious, maybe personalities, but there's a lot to show, which is why we try to give as many folks an opportunity to be on our shows as possible. So I mean, we just had on a company called ATL Cigars, small company out of Atlanta. But boy, I'm so glad we did a show with them, and I was shocked at the numbers we got from that show. And they're making incredible cigars, these guys, for a new company. Like, I don't know how they're doing it. They're working with really good factories, and their blends are good, but there's great stories. And in fact, we got them on early in their journey. Is like, who knows where they're gonna, I could see this company taking off in the next few years.
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting you bring up. Would you say maybe in the shorter, when I say short term, I mean like maybe in the last 5 years, would you say that there's more and more of these small companies, not only are they emerging, but they're flourishing too?
Yeah, they're emerging. There's less than there were a few years ago because of FDA.
Mm-hmm.
Are they flourishing?
Or at least the ones who are here.
The problem is it's hard to tell from Facebook and Instagram.
Right. And I'm not talking about that.
Yeah.
I just mean in terms of the accessibility that they have with their with their products and shops and stuff, and being able to get their products.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Yes.
Maybe including but not limited to brands that maybe are direct to consumer. I know the Cardinal Sin, but you can get them. If you've heard about it, you can go get it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a different story too. Certain companies have done that have managed that better than others.
Because I hear people always talking about like, oh man, there's certain people, who have said these things to me, and I wanted to bring this up on the show because I was thinking about it, and I'm like, it's interesting. But I've heard the comments from people being like, oh yeah, there's like all these other like small brands now, and like there's so much more, and And I feel like, there's a lot of people just like really making some headway, and I just remember thinking about being like, I don't know if I would say making headway. I think that I think social media has brought to light a lot more smaller brands than
Yeah.
before. Whereas I think before, a lot of these brands, maybe they existed and you just didn't know about them because they were small, and maybe they stayed small. But I feel like with the rise in the huge grab that social media has for everybody now, especially in the last 2 years, I feel like you're seeing more brands than maybe you did before, because like they're online and and you know that they exist. But I don't know if I would say that they're all really like flourishing. I think that they're just more. I think they have more recognition because they're able to use the
They
internet to get their name out there. But
they've had they've had the internet's given them the ability to have some sort of level of accessibility and communication that you wouldn't have had 20 years ago. Even but even the early days of the internet, I think Facebook and Instagram and Twitter have helped with that.
yeah, I think one could argue that I wouldn't say that they're flourishing,
Right.
but they're just more aware
Yeah.
because of social media. I mean, in this industry, it's very, I would say 2 years ago, before this pandemic started, I mean, the cigar industry was still very 2000, maybe 1999, in the way it operated. That's a comment that I've had come up a lot of times with different people. Even John was telling me, like, when we were going through the pandemic, he was like, dude, this industry was always face to face in the shop.
Mhm.
Nobody did online stuff. Like, there was online bloggers and media people, but there wasn't, like, brands were not online on their own. They weren't
No,
really doing social media. It's
no.
like they shifted to it now because they had to. Then they're like, oh wow, this is cool. And it's like, well, yeah, we've been telling you about this.
Yeah.
And now they're doing it because they see the benefit. But before that, I mean, that just wasn't a thing. They didn't really invest in. They invested in, oh, we'll go to the shops, we'll have the events, we'll have people come in, blah blah blah. But it's like, um, now that everyone's had the time to invest in social media, I feel like you're seeing more stuff online. Does that mean that there's a lot more big business going on? No. And Jay made a comment here. Um, Even brands like Foundation and Dunbarton are still very small. Oscar is a definite up and comer. The real world of what actually sells is very different from the internet perception. And I
Yep.
think that's a very well worded
Perfect.
response to that.
Yeah.
I think that's perfect. And I think that's exactly like the message we're trying to convey
Yeah.
here. And I'm not knocking the small brands either. It's not a knock on it. I support those brands trying to do business and get their name out there. And all. I really do. My point is, and it's not even on them. It's not their fault. They're doing. I think it's the public perception of like, oh wow, there's all this, and I don't know if there's just a lot more of it. I think it's just more knowledgeable now. It's more aware than it was before. I mean, we've talked a little bit about like Boutique Cigar Association, and I know that there's been stuff that you wanted to get into on that, and we said we would do a whole show
At
on
some
it,
point, yeah.
and that's
And
on
I
the
don't want to.
list.
Yeah, that's a big topic in general. A lot of companies though, they can create a facade, and not that they're purposely creating this facade. I don't think they're purposely creating, but
Hmm.
they can seem like they have more of a footprint than they really do.
Correct.
And I've seen there's a couple of companies. I really don't want to name the names here,
That's fine.
and it's really not important, the names, but they can go into one or two Facebook groups and look like they're the biggest thing, right? And in reality, they're in 10 stores. They're selling to like 10 stores, right? So so they don't have this big group. Now I look at Coop, because I have a written piece. I track a lot of analytics. I do a lot of analytical analysis on things, and I can tell you, our strength is because we are very easy to find in Google, and that's where our traffic comes from. So we do. Facebook's the largest of the social media platforms. I can tell you our Google traffic is tenfold to our Facebook accessibility.
Hmm.
So Google's the key. Google people still use Google. Trust me, is what I'll tell you. A Google search will go along. You just Google searched the DuPont stuff. You just did that. You just showed that earlier on,
Right. Yep.
right? Now, and it's very. And then when we have stuff that are covering these important, the idea is pick the right stories, pick the right brands, and do it. Um, it's huge. I mean, those photo searches are enormous. That we get an enormous amount of traffic from that in Coop over the years. So, like I say, I could just tell you, sometimes a company can look like they're huge on Facebook or Instagram, and in reality, they aren't even. They don't have enough Google footprint, so people don't know about them.
Yeah, I would say, without really getting too into, you know, the technological stuff. Yeah, Google is definitely a powerful tool.
Not necessarily for podcasts, but yeah, a podcast is a little different story. But yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
if you have a website, like we both do, and that's where you're gonna get your traffic. People who will get organic following.
oh,
Um,
I have much higher profit margins on selling an ad on a website than I do on a podcast.
mhm.
But the podcast kind of feeds the whole infrastructure too, so it kind of gives us another medium, and it does allow us to expand our reach. But I can tell you that the most profitable way for me is a banner ad on my site, and it takes a long time to do that. I mean, I've been doing 11 plus years, so it took about 5.5 years before I started seeing an ROI on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We could do a whole, and that's another thing we could do a whole show on. Just what goes into everything that we do, and what it takes.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean that's a little, yeah, again, that's a little the inside baseball we could talk about. And you and I've had some conversations on this too. And I said, I've kind of told you some things that just they're my observations.
yeah, yeah,
And it doesn't mean they're all right or wrong. I'm just saying this is what I've seen, and it works out, a certain way. So but yeah, going back to your point, like I said, I think there are some brands that would never get coverage if it wasn't for us either. So I'm glad we can offer that to these companies too.
yeah.
Um,
No, I agree. I definitely,
yeah,
I think that it's valuable.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
I think we should plan our next show, and don't let me forget this, because I really we keep bringing it up. Our next show, which will be taking place, hopefully together in the
Yeah,
Carolinas.
yeah.
If not, well, I'm still coming down equipped. So if we can't do it, we'll still be able
Okay,
to get online.
okay.
But having said that,
Yep.
we're hoping to shoot this one together. So I think we should plan on our next show being our Boutique Cigar Association show.
Yeah, and I don't want to be. This is not to beat them up either. Either. I just want to kind of give some observations on that. Kind of what we just did tonight with the International Summit.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, just calling the play, as I
yeah,
like to say. Just we're
yeah,
just gonna call the play.
yep, yep.
As we begin to wind down the show, I want to thank everyone once again for watching with us at home live, as well as listening to us on demand everywhere podcasts can be found. Especially over at Podbean. Head over to Podbean. You can find us, subscribe, like, follow, all that fun stuff. We always appreciate it. Busy week for me. We had our regular scheduled programming on Thursday. We're here tonight, and then tomorrow we have another special episode. We're going to be with Abe Flores from PDR Cigars. We're supposed to have him on a few different times, and unfortunately,
He's gonna be a great interview. I've interviewed him a few times. Well worth the wait. Trust me.
yeah, just we've had some scheduling issues, but that's okay.
Yep.
We're working that out. So we're going to get him on tomorrow. Just kind of to make it a little bit easier for him. But so we'll have that conversation tomorrow night, um, 7 p.m. Eastern, same place, same time. And then Thursday we have Tom Lazuka from Asylum
Great
Cigar
guest. Great guest.
coming on
One of
with
my
us,
favorites. One of my favorites.
and I
Always
have
love talking to Tom.
I have an Asylum 9 7x70 that
How
I
did you
got.
get one of those?
I got it at the trade show.
Yeah, see, we were supposed to go. We were supposed to go back to the booth, and we didn't make it back there. So he
I
did tell
don't
me back for yeah.
I don't think they were handing them out, but one was given to me, and
Yeah,
it was
he had
kind of
said
like,
come by
here,
because he
take one.
couldn't get. Yeah, so yeah,
So I
that
had
kind
one
of.
before everyone else. Just haven't
Oh,
smoked it yet. I might smoke that one on the show.
you're
Although
gonna be
that's quite the
doing. You
cigar to
better have
commit
another
to.
guest after that.
Yeah, I might have to start that one before the show, smoke some during the whole show, and then still have to stay behind, which I
Yep,
usually end up doing,
yep,
and finish that cigar. That
yep,
cigar is probably gonna take me a good
yep.
3 hours. But I think I'm gonna smoke that one on that show with Tom.
Yeah.
If I don't smoke that one, it's gonna be the ogre. I think I still have one kicking
Yeah.
around. So, it's an asylum night. It's gonna be wild. It's gonna be crazy. What
Yep.
do you got coming up this week?
So tomorrow night, not tomorrow, Monday night, we're gonna be doing Primetime Jukebox, episode 52. Dave and I are we started going through the Rolling Stone top 500 songs of all time. So we're doing a series of shows on
Just on the
some of
Rolling Stones?
the Rolling Stone magazine. I'm sorry, Rolling Stone
Oh,
magazine.
okay.
They did have top 500 songs of all time. So we just recorded that right before this show. That will air on Monday. And then we have a Thursday show with Nova Cigars and Leo at 10 p.m. on Thursday. So once you're done with Tom Lazuka, you can come on over to our show and we'll be talking to Leo on that. Bear and I do not have a special edition this week, so which is good because I'm exhausted. So yeah,
Coop's getting tuckered out.
yeah, well, this was a 3 podcast day for me. So so it's still busy. And on Coop, we're getting into the final reviews that are eligible for the end of the year list. So there's a lot. I've been really focusing on making sure we have because the 31st is the day the review has to be published. So that's a lot of focus I have on coming with that. And there's some cigars I think that are still going to make a play for those top slots that I haven't published reviews for yet. So stay tuned on that. And I guess we'll have our usual shenanigans on Coop as well.
Our usual shenanigans. I like
usual news and usual fighting for press releases and
the scoop with Coop.
Yeah, there's no KMA next week either because Abe's on vacation. So I have a break. Next week's a pretty good break overall. And actually, Dave and I are doing some planning for Jukebox 2022 after our show we record next week. So we're gonna get all that in as well. And I'm also slammed at my day job is the other thing. So
I hear you.
yeah,
I
so
totally.
I had a 6 a.m. night working on Coop stuff this week. So it was a busy week.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Well, with that, I think we're going to end the show there. It's a good stopping point. Guys, thank you again for being with us. Coop, thank you for being here with me as well. Don't forget to go check out both smokingtobacco.com as well as cigarcoop.com and check out both of the shows. Like, subscribe everywhere you can find us, especially everywhere you can find your podcast. That's a big one. Don't forget to subscribe.
Absolutely.
We'll see you guys all next week. Take care, guys.